right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Detroit Sports Talk on the Fith Chapter, presented to CashToBitcoin.com. Our presenting sponsor, CashToBitcoin.com.
And Fith, just like that, I am back. I am sorry for everyone for missing a week. I was out. I was on the injured reserve. I did not feel well at all. Could barely talk and couldn't breathe out of my nose. So it's good to have that feeling back, Fith, and I'm really happy to be back on the show.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say it now for the last time. I thought that because of the big football weekend, that if there was one day that you were going to show up, it was going to be on Tuesday after the Spartans' big victory. But it was almost like Michigan State lost because you were like, no, I'm no good. And then you still weren't good on Thursday. And I thought, wow,
No, I wasn't.
This is really a prolonged health issue here. And then we're so happy on not this past Saturday, the Saturday before.
Yeah, the Saturday before at the bar, watching the game, my whole table full of Michigan fans besides me. Made really good friends with some really old ladies who were Spartan alumni behind us. All around phenomenal day watching football, made money, watched my friends cry, basically. It was just a perfect Saturday 2 weeks ago.
Well, let's move on from that. The whole gang is here, and that means we have Rob Diddy behind the scenes, turning the dials and putting up the different banners, the Listen Anytime banner above, and he's got the scroll going as well. And then our intern, who's out in Happy Valley, it's going to be a sad valley this Saturday, but he's here as well, and that is Penn State Pete, and we'll be bringing him on and talking with him as well. But before we go any further, let's take a look at our book and the chapters, and that is brought to you by our title sponsor, and that is CashToBitcoin.com. There it is. Hey, I know you've thought about it like me, how to get involved in the cryptocurrency game. Now I'm here to tell you how to do it. You go to CashToBitcoin.com. That's cash, the number 2, Bitcoin.com. They're the Red Wings. I was listening to the game, and they were on the Red Wings game, and I was interested, just like that big hat trick. Then when I was watching that game, CashToBitcoin.com is one of the fastest and largest growing crypto ATMs in Michigan. They have hundreds of locations in Michigan and beyond. CashToBitcoin.com's ATMs and terminals offer safe and secure transactions. So get it going. Check it out. Step up. You come to the table, all those different things. Now's the time, folks. Remember it, use it. CashToBitcoin.com.
Let's bring up the full book so we can see what we're talking about today. And starting in the second chapter, we're going to be talking about some U of M football after a big win against Indiana. Third, we're going to talk about our old guy, Matt Stafford, how much we miss him in Detroit and how he laid an egg in LA.
Spoiler, you don't miss him.
I don't miss that man at all. Neither, and I will always argue people on Twitter about that. Fourth, we're going to talk about some college hoops. And finally, in the fifth chapter, we'll talk about Cade Cunningham versus Jalen Green, number 1 and number 2 overall picks playing together on tomorrow. But fifth, I think we should start with chapter 1. And that,
well, you know what? That sounds like a pretty good spot to start. And as you know, when we started this show out, it was Brian Jelinek. It was Brian Chapman, who does join us on the broadcast this evening. And hey, there he is, the Chapman.
Little Brian's back.
No. You're still Little Brian. I'm still the big radio star. You're still Little Brian.
Who's the one on the bottom screen now, though?
Maybe Rob Diddy can fix that and put me in the right position. But I'm centered, which is where I need to be.
Yeah, Chap, you're looking pretty good. And what's going to happen? You know, the whole thing with Penn State. I know Penn State Pete is now our intern. You've sent me a couple messages.
Great pickup.
You really you like to pick up of Pete. You think he's doing a great job and everything else. And one thing about Penn State is that they are going to be involved one way or the other. They just played Ohio State, played them pretty tough. It was a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. But as you know, Penn State's going to be playing Michigan, and then they're going to be playing Michigan State. So are they ready? Are you ready? And are they ready in State College?
Well, I'm certainly ready. I'm going to be going down to the game on Saturday with my sister. So that's going to be fun. I'm going to be staying with a friend of mine from college who stayed in State College after graduation. So it'll be great to reunite with him. And actually, I had a mini reunion this past weekend when I went to the wedding of a friend of mine who was a roommate for 2 years and also did a show with me on comm radio at Penn State for 4 years. But I mean, I think Penn State is as ready as they're going to be because they have Sean Clifford back. If you take away the Sean Clifford injury, Penn State right now is probably a one-loss team. They're probably 8-1. Instead, they had a 14-point lead against Iowa that disappeared because they've got a Division III quarterback as the backup quarterback, and they couldn't move the football at all. And then the next week, Sean Clifford was better than the Division III quarterback they tried to throw out there, but still wasn't any good, and they could only put up 10 points in regulation against Illinois. But we saw against Ohio State, he looked like he was close to 100%, putting up 24 points against the Buckeyes is pretty good for most teams out there, and especially pretty good for a team that cannot run the football whatsoever. So I think that Penn State is going to be ready. I like the fact that the game against Michigan is at home. Michigan, of course, is significantly banged up, particularly offensively. And while Penn State can't run the football, Michigan State can't defend against the pass, giving up over 500 yards this past weekend to Purdue. So I like Penn State having a pretty good shot against the Spartans in East Lansing at the end of the year as well.
You got any questions for Chap?
Yeah, I mean, Michigan is a 1.5-point dog going to State College and all that. How do you feel? Can you confidently say that Penn State with a healthy Sean Clifford can beat Michigan? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think they will. I thought that there was a small edge for Penn State going into the game, but then when I looked and saw all the injuries, they're basically going to have one running back that they can trust because Donovan Edwards didn't play this past weekend at all, and then Blake Corum got hurt. So if he's going to play, he's going to be less than 100%. But we saw, I believe it was 27 carries for Hassan Haskins, and nobody else had more than like 3 carries the whole game. So while Michigan's strength is running the football, they're not going to have a 1-2 punch or even a 1-2 and a 2.5 punch like they've had for most of the season. So Haskins could get worn down. And then when it comes to the passing game, we know that Michigan is not a great passing team, and Penn State has the best secondary in the Big Ten. They've got probably the second best safety coming out in the draft. Their other safety was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week this past week. They've got 4 cornerbacks that I think most Penn State fans can trust, and Michigan fans aren't really excited about their wide receivers. And Andrew Anthony, the guy they're most excited about, got banged up in the last game. So I do think it's going to be challenging for Michigan to move the football. I think if you watch the Penn State versus Illinois game, you saw Illinois running up and down the field against Penn State, but Penn State fixed that the very next week against Ohio State magically. So if they can do that when there are threats on the outside that Ohio State has, then I think they should be able to handle Michigan. And so, yeah, I am expecting a Penn State victory. I wish the game was a night game or at least a 3:30 game so you could see the half-ass whiteout have a better effect. But I do like Penn State to win. And let's also not forget, while Jim Harbaugh has done a little bit better on the road this year, beating Wisconsin, beating Nebraska, and playing a tough game against Michigan State. It's not like we can expect the Wolverines to just go out there and beat just about everybody on the road. So, yeah, I am expecting Penn State to win at home against Michigan.
Does Jim Harbaugh have a win in Happy Valley yet or not? Because playing at Penn State is a lot different than playing at a bad Wisconsin. The only comparable thing I can think of is East Lansing this year, just for the fact that Michigan State has a better football team this year. But I don't know. I still don't really trust Jim Harbaugh on the road going to Penn State and getting it done. And I'm not sure if I'm totally buying it yet.
Jake Rudock won there in 2015. Christian Hackenberg was sacked 4 times, but they haven't won there since.
And one note on that, James Franklin's first 2 years were 2014 and 2015. And in those 2 years, Penn State didn't have their full allotment of scholarship players due to the Jerry Sandusky sanctions. And then since then, they haven't beaten Michigan, or they haven't beaten Penn State in Happy Valley.
Chap, you bring up, and I'm going to ask people to bring up. I don't have the controls to bring up some of the feedback. I see people with some messages over there. We'll have to get to those. You'll have to bring them up on the screen. But you brought up James Franklin. I wanted to ask you what your feel is here on the coach, whether he's going to stay in Happy Valley, because his name is it's pretty close to the top. I think Jimbo Fisher and Mel Tucker, but I see James Franklin for LSU, and I've seen his name being mentioned prominently out at USC as well. Those are like Penn State's a great place, but so's LSU, and so is USC. What's your feel on the possibility of him leaving for either of those places?
Yeah, with regards to USC, nobody's really done much since Pete Carroll has left. LSU, I heard an interesting fact listening to the College Football Inquirer from Yahoo Sports, that podcast. Each of the last three coaches at LSU has won a national championship: Orgeron, Saban, and Les Miles. So you are, I mean, it seems like you are going to get a championship if you go there, even if in less than 2 years you're going to get fired because you lose 3 or 4 games. I don't think that James Franklin is a serious candidate or is seriously considering leaving either one of those programs. If you remember the first couple years after Franklin had his full allotment of scholarship players, 16 and 17, with 16 him winning the Big Ten championship, there are a lot of rumors about him leaving for other schools as well, and he ended up staying. And now that he's been there for like 8 years, it's kind of like an annual tradition. Penn State will have a good start, and then teams will say, hey, why don't we try to get James Franklin to leave his home state and come to some other school? And I think if you're a Michigan State fan, when you see the rumors come out about Mel Tucker being an option, for several years, you've got to wonder if he wants to leave. Because for me, I thought and I hoped James Franklin was going to stay. But until you get to this deep into the program, you just don't know that he wants to stay. This is only Mel Tucker's second year at Michigan State. And I know, Dennis, you would be happy to see him go to LSU or happy to see him go to USC. But, you know, when you look at Mel Tucker's past, he hasn't stayed at one place for a long period of time. You look at Colorado, I mean, for a first coaching job, being in the Power 5, being in the Pac-12, that's not a bad job. But he left after 1 year to go to Michigan State, and it wasn't in an ideal circumstance. It was he took the job well after the signing classes came in. And so if he's going to take another job, he's probably not going to take another job after 7 or 8 years. He's probably going to take a job when, you know, he's striking when the iron is hot. After 2 years, he could finish the season. You know, a worst case scenario, he's going to finish the season 9-3 if he loses to Ohio State and Penn State. But I think there's a solid chance he could go 10-2. And if LSU is going to have more money, and they probably will, their athletic director likes to hire big names. Like they just hired Baylor's women's basketball coach who won the national championship. You know, it would be a great opportunity for him to go there. And who knows how much longer Nick Saban is going to be around. And if Nick Saban decides to step down in 3 or 4 years and Mel Tucker's rolling, that could be a great job for him. But I think that if he stays at Michigan State through, let's say, 2023, then I think Spartan fans can be pretty confident that he's going to go. But until then, you just don't know. He can talk all he wants about, hey, you know, I love Michigan State and this is where I've always wanted to be, or I'm not talking about that. But coaches lie all the time when it comes to job opportunities.
Yes, they do. They're a lot like radio hosts. Are there any of the feedback coming in specifically for Chapman? Because I have one question that I wanted to get him out on the Lions. But if you want to bring up any of the feedback concerning Chapman, go ahead.
Yeah. So my favorite listener, Super Receipt, is saying I'm taking bets that Chappie Michigan all the way over Penn State. I got $50 on it, Chappie. How do you feel about that? $50 on Michigan to beat Penn State?
Michigan to beat Penn State. No, I think he's going to lose his money.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with him. And then there's David talking about Penn State only has the edge because they're at home. If this was at the big house, it wouldn't be close.
Well, the game
I don't know about
isn't
that.
in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, it's in Happy Valley, and I just don't know for the fact because at the end of the day, with a healthy Sean Clifford, that Penn State offense can roll.
Yep. Yeah, and it's mostly through the air, but you know, Michigan is even if the game is in Ann Arbor this week, given that they're probably not going to have 2 out of their top 3 running backs. Andrell Anthony, Eric all got banged up. Cade McNamara got banged up. And then you saw J.J. McCarthy with extended playing time, 5 out of 10. I heard a lot of Michigan fans over the last couple months saying, we've got to play J.J. McCarthy. He's so much better. 50% with a pick. I wouldn't trust Michigan right now in a big game like this.
Yeah, well, Haskins showed that he can handle the load by himself. And you know what, McNamara, if it was up to me and I was coaching, I wouldn't play J.J. McCarthy. I'd give him the full game anyways, unless he needs a blow because he gets popped or something over on the sideline. And I think Andrell Anthony and Eric All are going to play. So that's fast on the injuries. Now, before we go, let's talk about the other cats. We know you love the Nittany Lions, the Detroit Lions. You talk about an awful lot. And the Pursuit, I didn't think they would be in this spot. I thought that they would win a game already, but here
I told you they would start out 0-11.
It's amazing. Do you still think they're going to get a W? Is there anything besides the Pursuit of 0-17 that you find interesting about the Detroit Lions?
All the anti-Lions bets that I made before the season that are starting to cash in or have a good chance to cash in. There's just not much talent on this team. And I thought 0-17 was a legitimate possibility before the season started. And people said, oh, that's really difficult to do. But when you looked at that roster, you're like, they've got a shot to do it. If you thought that Jared Goff is a huge downgrade, and I don't think that is a huge downgrade from Matthew Stafford, that doesn't help. When you look at having no receivers, and then the 2 guys they got in the offseason haven't done anything for them this year, that's a big problem. We didn't expect the Taylor Decker situation, but Taylor Decker has not played at all this year. And so that made what was supposed to be one of the strengths of this team into a unit that's been up and down. The secondary we knew wasn't going to be good, but then you lose Melifonwu and Okudah, and you might say Okudah sucks. Yeah, but he was one of the top 2 corners on the team. So I think what really stings if you are a Lions fan is that going into this year, you really wanted to see some development from some of the young players. And with Okudah out for the year, Melifonwu out for the year, it's a lost season for those guys. When you look at Penei Sewell, he's been up and down, but he's not playing at the position the Lions drafted him to play at. Derek Barnes hasn't played a whole lot, but and when he hasn't made a lot of plays. The 2 defensive tackles that they drafted in the 2nd and 3rd round, that teams are running straight up the gut. Aleem McNeil isn't making an impact. Levi Onwuzurike isn't really playing. And so you're thinking from a Lions fan's perspective, what exactly are we getting out of this season? And the other thing I think you should look at is how good of a coach is Dan Campbell going to be? Because I think that I said before the year, if you expect Dan Campbell to be a good coach, he's got to go out there, even with a bad roster, and win at least 4 or 5 games. Like, you can't come back to the fan base after the first year and say, 1-16, 2-15, but I'm a good coach, when you couldn't coach your way or scheme your way into a handful of wins. And it's going to be tough for the Lions to get even 1 or 2 at this point. So they could be stuck with a lost year in terms of development and many signs that Dan Campbell is going to be another SOL bust at head coach.
All right, Chap. We appreciate your time. We could keep you on all hour here, but we know you have to go. I'll tell you what really stings is when somebody on the flagship's making up mock SOL videos like Rob Diddy keeps telling me, I'm a big Lions fan, but Chap mocks him every week. I'm like, I know, that really stings.
SOL. Yeah. SOL. Got to get that SOL chant going.
All right, you guys want to? You and Little Brian usually come to blows. Back in the day when you were both on, you guys got any cheap shots you want to take on the way out the door?
I got nothing, just for the fact that I did play golf over the weekend, and it was like the Lions out there. I was so bad in every way.
Hit 300 like Chap?
No, not even close. Tried new stuff in my swing, didn't work out. I am done playing for the rest of the year.
Same here.
I'm gonna just pack it in and hit the range. It was bad. So I got nothing to fight Chap on right now.
Better hit the dumbbells if you want to hit it past 300 like Chap.
That's right.
Chap, how much do you bench?
I haven't benched probably since high school or college. I do other workouts. I don't have a bench press in my apartment.
Well, whatever you bench, I bench more. So there's that.
Okay. Well,
All
I
right,
look forward to taking out Dennis this weekend, and then a couple weeks after that, taking out little Brian.
Okay.
Good luck on that. See you later.
Yep.
Somebody has to remove him. I don't have that
got
power. There it is.
Yeah,
There it is.
and just
Chapman.
before we move on, it's just Recedes blowing up our chat room, just talking about how this one, for example, Coach Melly Mel is on a mission to win titles, and I feel like he has a special connection with the players and the program so far. And if he doesn't have the connection, State will give him big money. And I vaguely agree with that, but at the same time, it's always concerning when a coach leaves a program after 1 year like he did in Colorado. I think Mel Tucker's going to be here for at least 4 to 5 years. I think that'll change, but if LSU does come calling with a ton of money does always talk.
Well, there's a chance, and I think Chap hit on the one thing. You look at the path to being able to win a championship, talking about a national championship, and it can be done at Michigan State, but considering the kind of recruiting and just the recent history of what you can do down there at Baton Rouge, you can get the money, and then you have the clearer path, and that could be something like, I don't know, like, sure. I mean, you'd say I'd stay at Michigan State. I think I would too. I might have stayed in Colorado. I've been out to Boulder too, but you never really know. He might have eyes on to make it a jump ultimately to the NFL. So he thinks win a championship and then I can go to the NFL. I don't know, but I know this: the more he wins, the more attractive he is to LSU, and Michigan State fans want to keep winning. So just hang in there, hang tight. Hope he wins the rest of his games, and then maybe say, "Hey, Mel, we hope you stay, but you know what? We understand. We'll drive you to the airport."
Just win, baby. As Al Davis said back in the day, just win, baby.
All right. Speaking of just win, Mel Tucker and the boys were in West Lafayette this past weekend. They were in the college football playoffs. They were one of the 4 teams there. I would have picked them at number 2. They were at 3, but they were in there. Nothing to sneeze at there, and you enjoyed it for a little while. But then they met the Boilers in a passing attack that rolled up 500 yards. Jelinek, what happened to the Spartans this past weekend?
Well, the Spartans secondary just showed that they're not the secondary. Pretty much the whole defense showed that it is fairly fraudulent throughout the year. And we can go back and talk, and we can go back and look at what I've said on the show is that, listen, I rode the high with Michigan State. It's unbelievable they got up to number 3 in the college football rankings. They were ranked in the top 10 in the AP and all that. It's truly an incredible season. However, we got to remember that this is only year 2 of Mel Tucker. There's been a ton of stuff going on with the program. The defense just fell apart. I mean, frankly, the offense wasn't that great either, but just all around, Michigan State played a bad football game. And if you put that O'Connell kid on any other team in the Big Ten, like an Ohio State, like a Penn State, like a Michigan, man, you would watch out for those teams. That kid can throw the freaking ball. It was pretty epic to watch.
Yeah, and Brom, a quarterback guy. I mean, they were playing up to 3-4 quarterbacks this year, but I think Bell, there's some outstanding wide receivers in the Big Ten this year, and Bell's one of them, better than anything that the Lions have. And you got to come up and game plan against that guy because he's special. There's no doubt, he's going to be playing in the NFL for a long time, and they couldn't handle him, and they couldn't handle the reverse flea flicker.
They had nothing.
That they drew up too, which was a great play. I mean, so that's going to happen. I think the thing though, win your Big Ten East games, beat Michigan, that was over in the West. You want to win all your games, sure, but they still control their own destiny, so you got to from that standpoint, you go beat Ohio State and you go beat Penn State, you could still go to the Big Ten championship game. You could still go to those college football playoffs. So the dream's still alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michigan State does miraculously win out, which I don't think they will. They absolutely have a chance to win the Big Ten, just for the fact that the Big Ten West isn't that good. But, man, they do control their own destiny, and I am deathly terrified of playing Penn State, of playing Ohio State. It's going to be a rough go of it, and I think you will see some more cracks in the system and realize that, hey, Mel Tucker coached the team up pretty well, but at the end of the day, they're still not on the caliber of a Penn State or an Ohio State. It's just that simple, Fith.
Well, speaking of Penn State, the last thing you said there, Pete Finelli is out in State College. He is a sophomore there. He joins us, and he's ready to go. He's got the great Penn State backdrop, the Penn State hat. Pete, how are you?
I'm doing good, Fith.
Good. What do you think so far? You had MSU getting popped by Purdue. We're getting ready to talk a little bit about Michigan, Penn State. How you feeling about all that?
I'm a little nervous. Who was it? I think David was saying earlier in the chat that, with Penn State being home this weekend, it's definitely going to give him the edge. And I think he's got a point there where if it was in Michigan, that might be a different story. But you know what? It's not. So that's great. And honestly, you're talking about the Purdue, Michigan State. You kind of give Purdue a lot of credit. The record shows they're not the greatest team, but they went and they handled MSU, and they totally destroyed Iowa back when they were ranked number 2. And they've got their record's not great, but they've got a couple of really nice wins in their on their resume. So
in their back pocket,
however you want. I couldn't.
No, I think you got it. Those are nice. The resume is right on.
Sure.
Let's stay here through the second chapter as we're ready to move on from Michigan State. Unless there's anything left that Jelinek wants to clean up about his Spartans.
No, Spartans are bad. It's just that simple. And I have a bad feeling this can be kind of a snowball effect for the program for the rest of the year after getting handed a fat L by Purdue on the road. I just feel like it has the opportunity to snowball into something that nobody really wants to see. But at the end of the day, we beat Michigan. We won more than 4 games, which we were projected to win. So overall, it's a win for the first full year of Mel Tucker. But, man, Saturday was rough, really rough.
That is very on brand for Worry Wart Jelinek.
I'm always worrying, man. I am always worrying. And with that, we go into chapter 2. We're just talking about Michigan, Penn State. And before we really dive into it, I just wanted to say that I wanted to go against Chapman one bit, saying they lost their 1-2 punch with Haskins and Corum, or with Corum being out, excuse me. Haskins is still a hell of a punch. I mean, the dude ran for over 160 yards still with 27 carries. Haskins is a damn good back, and I'm not sure if you can say that Michigan's offense is really going to struggle just for the fact that Blake Corum's out, because at the end of the day, Haskins is a really, really good running back.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I'm jealous. Even if they don't have, a 1-2 running back duo, at least they have a reliable running back, which is a heck of a lot more than Penn State can say, because they've got a handful of guys that are all, subpar, and no one stands out as the number 1 guy. Second worst rushing attack in the Big Ten. At least you have somebody back there.
Yeah, it's a spot where you have some depth. Not all teams are featuring 2 backs. A lot of teams do just have one main back that they feed, and, you go and give somebody a change of pace or something else like that, and they will, have somebody else to bring in there. But, he showed that he could shoulder the load last week, and I think he'll be fine. If this was at the beginning of the year, you could say, oh, man, we really need to get somebody else up there.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's championship time. There's 3 games to go, and Michigan comes back. They're able to put the Michigan State loss behind them. They look like they had a MSU hangover, being able to take care of Indiana. Indiana did have their 3rd-string quarterback, a true freshman that wasn't in for spring at the Big House, so that was always going to be tough. But U of M's defense looked good, and now they're on to Penn State. And
are they though? Are they on the Penn State Fifth? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but man, Jim Harbaugh will not stop talking about the Michigan State game. That man does not seem like they're on the Penn State at all. And that's that whole issue with the missed calls and the Big Ten allegedly contacting them. It's really starting to piss me off. My Twitter timeline is just an awful place right now for Michigan fans.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know if Pete realizes this, at yesterday's news conference, Jim Harbaugh was asked if, the Big Ten got back to him, because they're like, we're going to send the tape in, these bad calls from Michigan State. And he was like, yeah, they got back, and they blew the Hutchinson call, and they blew some other ones. And, to me, I look at it like this. I don't know what you gain as a coach. You can't use excuses. You can't use injuries, and you can't use bad calls when you're a coach. So by saying that, he was over there saying, well, I was asked, so I answered it forthrightly. He didn't do himself any favors doing it.
No, he didn't.
Doesn't matter how long, Pete, you're a young guy. It doesn't matter if you live to 90. Just remember, when you're getting ready to retire, you're like 75. You'll say, 50 and always told me death, taxes, and bad calls. And, it's going to happen. So you have to overcome it. Teams that get a lot of bad calls, they start talking about irrefutable, clear evidence, and, how could they possibly do this? They're looking to overturn things. But in the last 10 years with everybody with the super high def and we've seen 100 of these kind of things. Yeah, it wasn't irrefutable. It wasn't clear and concise visual evidence. It was anything but we see it all the time, and it sucks when it happens to you and in your team. And, here was Michigan having to, deal with it. But I really think it's just a lot of, it's if I was Michigan State, it's on brand for MSU too, because MSU, they're always ticked off about Michigan not giving them respect. And here's
Tom Izzo.
Well, and here's a case where instead of being like, hey, we lost to the better team. Boy, the Spartans were great. It was like, yeah, we got jobbed, the calls. And so that's just going to trigger Michigan State fans. You understand it. And I think it's a lot bigger for the media and the fans. And I don't think so much for the coach, but I don't know. It didn't seem, I think it's a 24-hour news cycle. Then in the off season, you can swap blows with MSU fans. Like, yeah, if we would have had the call, you guys would have, and then State can say, we won the game,
Well, State can say they outscored Michigan 23-3 in the second half. It's one thing that if it came down to a bad call on a last-second field goal to tie or win the game, if it was like 33-30 or something like that I could be upset about, like the Lions losing on a million-yard kick from Justin Tucker, stuff like that. That's one thing. But getting blown out in the second half, you have zero right to talk about it and just move on because bad calls happen all the time for every team. It just shows when you're losing or getting your drawers blown off.
Pete, you good with that?
I mean, yeah, the bad calls are, it sucks. There's no other way to put it. It sucks. And I mostly watch NFL as opposed to college football. And the last few years have been so bad. And there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, they had they had 2 years ago, it was where they did the experiment where they could challenge pass interferences.
Terrible.
They got rid because they never, even when it was challenged, they never reversed the call because they were like embarrassed to admit that they were wrong. And that was that whole ordeal. And I don't even want to get into just how frustrating it is to watch sometimes. And yeah, sometimes it helps you out and sometimes it kills your team's game. Like you said, it's a part of life.
Well, Pete, you're really big into the NFL, so that takes us to the next chapter, and that's my quarterback.
Oh, that's our guy.
If you feel like the Lions and Lion fans and all of Detroit have an inferiority complex because they're obsessed with Matt Stafford, it was a bye week, and I think there's probably some truth to that. I mean, we are very interested in how old number 9 does with the Rams, and everybody bending over backwards and patting him on the back and everything that any broadcaster said. Oh, he finally has found a home. And everybody's like, F you, and everything. But Matt Stafford, we'll start with you, Pete. Matt Stafford went out and laid an egg on Sunday Night Football. Pick six, and then he damn near threw another one. They had it. You might as well have called it a pick six because they were right there at the goal line. That was the Matt Stafford, the one that we know. That's it, Jelinek. That's our Matt Stafford.
That's our guy, man. That's our guy.
You can take Matt Stafford out of Detroit, but you can't take the Detroit out of Matt Stafford.
Oh, Pete, I love you for saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, he was doing his best Carson Wentz impression on that first INT and spun to the ground, throwing it right into a defender. That was horrific. You got to give the Tennessee defense some credit though, because no Derrick Henry. Everyone was like, "Oh, Tennessee's done." Write them off. They're through. And even their offense wasn't even that great. I mean, AJ Brown 42 yards, Julio Jones 35. Adrian Peterson got in there for a little bit with a touchdown. Didn't even know he was still in the league, but all right.
He's back. He's 50 age.
He is.
What? Sure. But you get the defense credit with the 2 INTs, 1 pick six. Stafford was just not didn't show up today. I think he might have overlooked the Titans, honestly.
All right, where to begin with this? Where to freaking begin? So,
come on, Brian.
The troll god I look up to is Jeffrey Rieger. I love that man to death. And a couple of things he tweeted out. First of all, Matt Stafford is 9-69 against teams with a 500 record or better. Next, he is the league leader in pick sixes since he's entered the league with 24. And finally, Stafford against teams that are combined 14-37 this year. He's 6-0 with 16 touchdowns and just 3 picks. teams with a combined 21-5 record this year that he's played. He's 1-2, 6 TDs, 3 interceptions. Matt Stafford cannot beat good football teams, whether you put him on the Rams, whether he's on the Lions, whether he's on the Patriots when in their heyday. At the end of the day, Matt Stafford cannot get it done. And that whole game, I was loving life for the fact that Chris Collinsworth, I love that man to begin with, is talking about, oh, look at this, he could be the MVP favorite, blah, blah, blah. Boom, pick 6. Following another reception, just it's so on brand for Matt Stafford. And I think the people in America forget how he's just an above average quarterback. That's it. He's not elite. He's not bad. He's above average. And people of America saw that on Sunday Night Football.
Well, we watched him for 12 years here in Detroit. And a lot of times he didn't have the talent around him, didn't have a running game, didn't have the coach, and he's playing for the Detroit Lions. So it's tough. But you know what? You would think at one of those points, he would push through and, put him on his back if he was that elite quarterback. And to your point, I don't think he is that. But, he flashed. 2011 is a hell of a long time ago. Pete was like in grade school back then. That was Stafford when he threw 5,000 yards. And the Lions did have an NFC championship type offense. Their defense was terrible, but he had the propensity at certain times when you thought, all right, the Lions do have something going. He would throw the ball away. He would throw the game away. It was on him. He got benched against the Cardinals the one year. He had a number of chances in big-time games at home against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, and he's sailing the ball, 10 yards above Golden Tate's head. And, he couldn't get a touchdown in the last time they were in the playoffs against the Seahawks. So I think it's a cautionary tale for the Rams. Yeah, you put everything around him. You can give him everything. You could go and get Von Miller. You could get Jesus Christ. And at some point, you got to watch it because Matt Stafford could throw a game away. So you know what? The Rams, you're not sitting over there. You didn't go pluck and get an elite quarterback. You got one that sometimes can flash that way, but you got one that can also flash a bad side. And we saw that bad side.
You get one who flashes against really bad football teams. And just like you said when you started talking, Matt Stafford, this is his 13th year in the league. What in the world is he doing as he's being thrown to the ground, deciding to throw that ball? Take the freaking sack, man. You've been in the league for 13 years now. You should know better. That man can be so careless with the football still so far into his career. It's just unfreaking believable. It's just, I just don't get it. And I'm finally glad that people are starting to see it.
I just got to go back. I'm sorry. You make your final point there.
I just felt like an insane person for always being like, guys, look, Matt Stafford's not that good. I guarantee if you put Jared Goff back on the Rams, they have an almost identical record, maybe one more loss or something like that.
They lose to the Bucs. They lose
to the Bucs. Exactly. It's that simple. But I think the records are almost identical.
Well, Lion fans, we've all grown up in padded rooms, and so we kind of felt like we were back in there watching our boy. Pete, both you and I picked. It was an off the board pick going with the Tennessee Titans to go to the Super Bowl, and both of us last week said, you know what, no King Henry, it's over for us. And everything else, but the way they played, you're right. The defensive tackles were great in that game for the Titans. Mm-hmm. It was one of these, it's not a rule in sports, but it happens so much that you just have to take account for it. A gigantic injury to a key player, that team in the short term, like one game, or if it's basketball or baseball, maybe it can happen for a week. They tend to rise to the occasion and do something. And then after that, I don't think Tennessee is going to win the Super Bowl, and that was a great win for them and everything else. I picked them like you, like they're a team that besides Lamar Jackson running around, he's kind of a unicorn. They had Derrick Henry, they're giving 578 carries to, and trying to deal with that truck and Tannehill and what they had with that defense. I thought it was going to be a chance that they could go to the Super Bowl. That's why I picked them, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I was thinking about you. As I was watching the Titans win that game and Stafford throw it away, I was like, Pete and I, maybe we still feel good. If we could cash out on our Super Bowl pick, we would do it right now. But nice win there for the Flaming Tees.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, like you said, the defense showed up. They're not going to be able to do it the rest of the year. But honestly, the AFC not looking as strong as we would have thought. I mean, the Chiefs are not the Chiefs. The Bills must have gone on vacation. I don't know what happened.
The Bills have been a roller coaster all year. They look like they can be one of the best teams in the league, and then they play the Jaguars like they did on Sunday and just looked god awful. It's just, it's a bizarre team to follow right now.
And even last week against Miami, I think it was even like the whole game, and they were able to pull away at the end, but like they looked so strong at the beginning of the year, and I was like, yeah, this is clearly the number one team. After their week one loss, they came out like the next 3 weeks absolutely dominated, and now they're just falling to scoring only 2 field goals against Jacksonville and Urban Meyer.
Yeah, and I want to bring Rossini in the chat for a second, saying, "What about my Ravens? Super sweet, right?" And at the end of the day, yeah, I kind of agree. I think the Ravens have a chance to be one of the better teams in the AFC, just for the fact that when Lamar's healthy and playing well, they're good. They have Justin Tucker, as always, to kick field goals at the end of the games like that. But I like the Ravens to win the AFC North. I'm not sure what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I would put Lamar. Go ahead, Pete.
Sorry. Okay. I was going to say, yeah, I mean, after Burrow and the Bengals performance, that was awful against the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
The Brown, Baker Mayfield's not all that. Pittsburgh, Big Ben's not all that. Yeah, I could definitely see Baltimore being the team representing the AFC North. But my problem is Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. And I think they could win the first game, the second game maybe. But when you're getting to the best teams and the most important situations, and they go down early, and then Lamar Jackson struggles. And that's when that team can't quite fight back enough. And then even if they did make it to the Super Bowl, I can't see them beating the best team from the NFC North. But yes, I see them winning the AFC North.
Yeah, remember before the season, I thought the Colts and the Ravens were going to be the 2 most disappointing teams because of the injuries. Quentin Nelson, Carson Wentz for the Colts. And the Ravens, they lost their top 3 running backs, maybe their top 4 running backs. They lost their top corner and the playmaker. I didn't think that the Ravens, I thought they were going to be the most disappointing team. I would have Lamar Jackson he won the MVP 2 years ago. I would have him as my halfway point MVP right now. And you know what? When you're the MVP, it's a great point about the playoffs because Lamar, they were rolling 2 years ago and then they just got stung by falling behind. But you know what? Lamar he is getting, as he goes, you get him more players around. I thought they should have made a deal. Maybe they'll go after OBJ. I don't know. Maybe they'll get Odell Beckham Jr., but Hollywood Brown is balling out.
Oh, yeah.
He looks great for him right now and what he's able to bring to the table. If you want to tell me you think the Ravens, super receding, are going to the playoffs, I got Lamar as the halfway MVP. I'm with you, but Pete makes a great point about their postseason blues.
Yeah, they'll definitely make it to the playoffs. No doubt about that in my mind.
Playoffs. I think they have a chance to make a run just for the fact of how weak the AFC has looked recently.
Exactly.
I mean, if the Bills get going again, they are the team to beat in the AFC without a doubt. However, just with how good Lamar is playing right now, and if he can continue doing that deep into a playoff run, I can give a slight edge to the Ravens for making a Super Bowl run. I can make that bold prediction right now. And on top of that, Super Recedi coming in again saying, yes, OBJ for the Ravens. So that would be pretty cool.
I knew you'd like that.
That would be cool to see, but I just don't want OBJ to ruin Lamar Jackson. It's just that simple. OBJ is a cancer wherever he goes.
I don't think OBJ is going to want to go to the Ravens strictly because of Lamar Jackson. He knows he might not get all the attention that he wants with the quarterback like that. Which, speaking of which, real quick, can we get your guys' prediction on where he goes?
Raiders. Raiders. They lost Henry Ruggs. They need a wide receiver. I know that Jackson went there, right? I think OBJ goes there.
Yeah.
I can see some weird Tom Brady thing in him going to Tampa Bay. I can just see that. I just have this weird feeling like Tom likes taking in guys like
he did it with AB
Brown.
That is weird.
Josh Gordon. I could see it. Just don't count it out. I could totally see OBJ going to the Bucs for league minimum for the year. Boom. That's my hot take.
That's pretty hot.
That's a sizzling take. Probably no steak, but sizzling.
All right, I'll go Raiders. You go Bucs. Who are you saying, Pete?
I know there's been a lot of talk about Seahawks, so I'm liking that. That would be
Russell Wilson is
a great
back.
trio.
Seahawks. I don't like that with on my fantasy league team looks, but all right. Let's before we get to the fourth chapter, let's just say hi to our presenting sponsor, and that is cashtobitcoin.com. Now we're ready for the fourth chapter. And Pete, we'll say so long to you. Watch some college hoops tonight.
Yeah.
Keep working that chat.
I kind of agree with that a little bit. I got to get more in the college hoops fifth. But with that, we got the Hardwood Classics night? Is that what it's called with ESPN?
I don't pay attention to what they're called, but I do love in the preseason when they do actually have those classics, because generally you're going to see the two top 25 teams, even though Michigan State, like they were in the NCAA tournament on the outside looking in, they had the playoff play-in game. They have to play into the top 25, but they're at home and they have Kansas, and that's going to be an awesome game. And then we got the annual, it seems like, Kentucky Duke game to tip off college basketball. It's been going on all day. I liked it when ESPN did 24 hours on the first day. I mean, they had game after game after game.
Yeah,
it was great. They don't do that anymore, but this is nice for tonight. And for Michigan fans, they're going to raise the banner tomorrow for the champs, regular season champs, and that's exciting too. 6:30s, they bring in what's expected to be the best team in the Mid-American Conference, the Buffalo Bulls. So exciting 2 days if you're a college hoops fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the way I'm looking at it is that I really singled out Michigan and Michigan State for the show prep. And starting with Michigan State, there's no way they're going to suck back-to-back years, right? Like that's that. When I'm looking at all the stats from last year going into this year, who they have, who they don't have, like losing Josh Langford and stuff like that, they just can't suck again, right? Like through the first 15 games last year, they were 8-7. I just don't see that happening again. I mean, like I said, they did lose Josh Langford and Henry and all that, but they can bring in, or they have Joey Hauser playing, Marcus Bingham bringing, Gabe Brown and Malik Hall. Like Michigan State's got to be better this year, and I just don't think Tom Izzo will allow them to be bad 2 years in a row like that.
Well, they need Hoggard or they need Walker, the transfer, to step up at point guard. Tom Izzo has to have a great point guard. Walker not having a good first half against the Jayhawks. But, yeah, you know what? The Big Ten is loaded this year.
Oh, loaded.
Michigan and Purdue are ranked in the preseason.
Yep.
Top 25. You've got OSU, Maryland, Michigan State, Illinois. I mean, that's 6 teams deep right there. So the Big Ten is going to be – I thought last year the Big Ten, with the way the Pistons were going, and we know it was a COVID year and everything else, but I found it the most entertaining of sport going on. The college hoops of the regular season, every night there was a clash, and I think we're going to get a little bit of that this year. Gonzaga, UCLA, we saw UCLA beat both Michigan State in that play-in game, and then Michigan in the Elite Eight there, and Johnny Juzang and Jaime Jaquez is both they're both back. Those guys are awesome. They should be in the top 4. Villanova's there, the Kansas team that Michigan State's playing tonight. So you got those 4 teams right there. But the Big Ten's loaded, and Michigan went to the transfer portal last year and got Mike Smith, and they got Shaundi Brown, and both of those guys were huge players for them. And Michigan State got Hauser, and he was all right, but wasn't that impact. Michigan brings in Devontae Jones from Coastal Carolina. They've got a half dozen freshmen in the 3rd best ranked recruiting class. And I watched them play an exhibition game on Friday at Wayne State. And the one kid that they brought in, Musa Diabate, he was, he's going to be exciting. It was just an exhibition game, but I was pretty pumped up watching him. He's a live wire. He was all over the place. So college hoops is here. I'm excited about it. And we're ready to go. I take it in segments. The non-conference, there's so many. Like Michigan's playing a team that I've never heard of, Tarleton, and all kinds of teams you get like that. High Point, and those games are not a lot of fun. But when you get some of these classics like you're talking about, you get some real top 25 matchups. I'm there for those. I pull up a chair and look forward to those. But you don't get many of those in November. They start materializing, and then you start getting some conference games in December, and then it's on. So. I'm happy it's here. I always like opening nights and whatever sport. And here we are with opening night. So let's go.
Yeah, opening night for college hoops is always great. I love following John Rothstein on Twitter. That man is amazing when it comes to college hoops. And I'm kind of right there with you. I'm not a big fan of the early college hoop season just for the fact that they're playing bad non-conference teams and all that. Then when we start getting in the Big Ten conference play, like I'm all in. And when it's coming to Michigan State, Dave's in the chat saying Michigan will be a Final Four team and Dickinson will get drafted by the Pistons. I would love Dickinson to get drafted by the Pistons. I think that would be great. And I think Michigan is absolutely, I think it's going to be Final Four bust this year. They have to get there, and I think they will. I think Michigan is a damn good basketball team this year.
Yeah, well, they were that close last year. When you put together a team and have the kind of recruiting class and bring in a transfer where you look like you're one of the better teams in college basketball, I don't think anybody should be shying away from any Final Four expectations or anything like that. So, I think all that kind of projections, that's fine. Bring it on. Let's go. I'm here for it. I also think, like, I was just looking and I wasn't aware of this. I knew Buffalo was pretty good, but I was looking because Michigan's playing them tomorrow. And in the preseason coaching poll, they've got 12 teams in the MAC. Buffalo got 11 of the 12 first place votes. So, Buffalo, and they got 2 players on the all MAC team preseason. They're both seniors. So Michigan's going to see an experienced team tomorrow. But also what was interesting in that, Western, Central, and EMU were picked 9, 10, and 11, respectively, in the Mid-American Conference. So we'll see which one of those teams, if any, is able to outperform their preseason projection, because they're all picked towards the bottom. We'll see if one of them is able to get up there towards the top. Hopefully it's EMU. Yeah,
I would love to see EMU. And David Tracy
over CMU, over WMU. You're an Eastern guy.
No, you're an Eastern guy. I'll be an Eastern guy. I'll be an Eastern guy with you. We got David Tracy here saying Stan Heath will bring Eastern back to its glory days on their Ben Bronze. Just give him a couple of years.
There you go.
I'll go in on the Eastern Eagles. Why not?
Let's go. Let's get in on the ground floor. Let's go, Stan Heath. Let's get after it.
Let's go, Eagles.
How about that? Yeah, Hurons forever.
Fifth, before we get in talking to some NBA hoops with Cade and Jalen Green, should we bring Raj in?
Hell yeah, we should.
All right, let's bring our guy Raj in.
What's up, Raj?
Raj.
Hey, what's up, fellas? How's it going?
Do you have gloves on?
You know it.
Got the driving gloves on, ready to go. I'm about it.
Right there.
He's looking good, Raj. You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Can't complain. Just been listening to the show. Been a loaded show. Started off with Chapman, went to Pete. Now you got me in the building. Nice loaded Tuesday right here.
It is a nice little Tuesday. So far, we've talked about Michigan State's loss to Purdue, Michigan beating Indiana, moving on from Michigan State, getting ready to play Penn State. We talked about our quarterback, Matt Stafford. I know you're never short of opinions when it comes down to the former QB for the Lions. We just talked some college hoops. Which out of all those things are the most interesting to you?
Yeah, I mean, just a lot going on. Yeah, Stafford showed his true colors. He showed the national stage what we all knew. And excited for some college basketball tonight. Excited that the season's underway. The expectations are high for Michigan. So we want to see what they do. We want to see how if Izzo bounces back this year or not as well.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing about Mr. Izzo. Yeah. It's the opening night. I get pretty excited about college.
They can't be bad 2 years in a row. There's just no way Michigan State will be that bad again. I'm not expecting them to be a top 5 team, but I'm expecting them to be in the hunt, ranked in the low teens, something like that. They just cannot be as bad as they were last year.
Yeah, they should definitely make some noise this year. Absolutely. They should be better. I don't think they're going to be as good as Michigan.
No.
I think Michigan's the team to beat in the Big Ten, but they should make some noise.
Yeah,
Walker. They left a little lingerie on the deck as Michigan State goes man-to-man. It's my Rafferty.
I love that man. Onions. I love Bill Raftery. I love that dude.
And then when Gus Johnson's done with football, he takes his way to the hardwood. Dickinson! All right. I don't know.
Nothing like a Gus Johnson called game. Nothing like it.
No.
For hoops.
I like him in football too. I love him. I love him in football. I love him in basketball.
Same here. All right, I got 5 over under here. 5 over unders over here. You guys ready for them?
Let's roll.
Well, I told Jelinek that I thought you'd only have 3, so I lost. You went over on the over and under already. So, all right, let's hear it.
All right, we got a big game down tonight at the LCA. You got the 9-1 Edmonton Oilers at the Red Wings. They got the over/under at that game for 6. No Larkin tonight for the Wings either. So over/under at 6. Brian, you going over or under?
I'll go over just for the fact that the Edmonton Oilers are really, 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 really good. Connor McDavid is like the second coming of Jesus Christ. Like, that dude's a freak on the ice. I don't think the Wings are going to score more than 3 goals, but give me Edmonton to score at least 4. I think they'll hit the over without a doubt.
I thought you would have learned last time when I told you that that's too many goals, and I don't know if that's from tonight, but McDavid had a highlight reel goal just a couple of nights ago. He swerved through everybody, went right
for New York Rangers. He's a freak.
Oh yeah, that was a great. Drysdale is an awesome player too. But I'm taking this is a dead under. I'm on the under.
Okay.
I agree with Brian here. I'm gonna go with the over. Even though there's no Larkin playing tonight, Bertuzzi's been hot. Grice has been playing good at goalie. Edmonton, they're high-powered offense, so I'm gonna go with the over here. I'm gonna go with the over.
You guys like Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid? All right, I get it.
Kenny Holland's back in Detroit, so yeah, why not? Let's make it a high-scoring affair.
Well, why not? I think you guys should listen to me when it comes to those over and unders. But all right, you guys like posting those L's? Go ahead, post them. You're gonna eat that L. All right, who's next?
All right, let's get some MAC action in there.
Ooh.
MAC football tonight. You got the Ohio Bobcats at Eastern -6 in that game. They got the over/under at that game at 61.5. Dennis, you like the over or the under?
60.5. I'm gonna go. I'm going under. I'm going under.
That is a ridiculous number for MAC. Should hammer the under, man.
That game's just getting ready to start, by the way.
I love them. I love the MAC and I love MAC, but man, it is bad football. Give me the under.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the under in this one as well. They're playing at Eastern outside. It's a little chilly out there. But Eastern did have a high-scoring game last week with Toledo that they won. But I'm gonna go under in this game.
What was that one, like 62-59, man? That was,
yeah.
They almost got to you can give me the over and under 100. I'm ready for one of those one of these days. 99.5. I'll take the over.
Absolutely. Sticking with the MAC, you got the University of Akron at Western Michigan tonight. Western coming off that loss to Central last week. They got the over/under at this one at 62. You like the over or the under, Brian?
I'm just rinse and repeat what I said a second ago. It's MAC football. I love, as a Bronco for 2 years, I love Western football. They were the standard in the MAC for a bit. Akron sucks. I just don't think – I think Western can score a ton of points, but it's not going to be enough to get to 60. So give me the under.
Under.
Trifecta. I'm going with the under in that one as well.
Under, Raj, just like Jelinik's 4 years that he was supposed to send out there in Kalamazoo to get his degree. I went with the under on that one.
Hammer the under when it comes to Jelinik in college. Whatever you do, hammer the under.
Oh, man. All right. We got the season opener in college hoops tonight. You got Kansas at Michigan State. They got the over/under in this one at 140.5. You like the over or the under in that one, Dennis? 140.5.
Well, it's 39-32 at the half with Kansas winning. Sorry, Dennis. I just had it open on my phone. I got the update. I'll go first.
So you're cheating?
Yeah, I am cheating. 140 is a lot. Give me the under.
I'm gonna go with the over in this one. I like the over. Kansas, high-powered offense. We just talked about State should be better. I'm gonna go with the over in this one.
Well, considering we're at 72, 142, we're almost dead at the half. It's just where the over and under is. I'll take the under too. I think they'll tighten the screws up in the second half on defense.
Go man to man.
All right, got you guys. And the last one here, we got the Lions at the Steelers on Sunday. They got the over/under at that one for 42.5. You guys like the over or the under in that one?
Over. I think the Steelers will open up a can of whoop ass on the Lions. I see the Steelers getting upwards of 40 points themselves. So I think the Lions can back into a score or two. So I would take over 60 in this one. Give me the over.
Yeah, I'm going to go right there with you. I think Najee Harris is going to run for like 1.5 million yards against the Lions. So they're going to easily score 40 points on their own. So yeah, hammer the over.
I'm going to go ahead and play devil's advocate here. Big Ben was not that impressive in that Monday night game last night. The Lions, they don't have a high-powered offense. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think Pittsburgh ultimately wins, but I'm going to go with the under in this one.
Okay, Raj. Raj, you want to stay for the fifth chapter here? It's right up your alley.
Let's do it.
All right, that gets us to the fifth chapter, and that is going to be for the Pistons who take on the Rockets. And you might say, well, is this an interesting game? Because these are the two teams that were 1 and 2 in the draft last year. It is an interesting game because these two teams were 1-2 in the draft last year. The Pistons took Cade Cunningham, and the Rockets took Jalen Green. And Jalen Green was like, I didn't want to go to Detroit anyways. So here we are, the first two picks in the draft colliding tomorrow. Let's start with you, Raj. Do you have any? If I gave you a redo right now and you could go and take anybody else, who would you draft with the first pick in the NBA draft if you could have anybody right now?
Well, I mean, I probably got one of the unpopular opinions, but I was a Jalen Green guy during the draft. We took Killian Hayes last year, so I figured we had our point guard already, and I wanted to get a 2 guard, so we have the 1-2 combo, kind of like a Steph and Clay kind of thing. So I was more of a Jalen Green guy since we already took Killian Hayes. But, I mean, make no doubt about it, though. I think Hayes is going to be a great player, and I don't think the Pistons made the wrong decision.
Yeah, Raj, I'm right there with you. I mean, at the end of the day, I wanted Cade Cunningham just for the fact that he basically sounded like he passed every test when he was at Oklahoma State. He sounds like a phenomenal teammate, sounds like a phenomenal guy. All that boring stuff that people don't really care about because they only care about stuff that's on the floor. And I understand that Cade's only averaging 10 points a game right now in 4 games of work or whatever, how many games he's played. Cade Cunningham has not been very good. And I don't care. I don't care just for the fact that he is not 100% healthy. And I think in the long run, Cade Cunningham is going to be a phenomenal basketball player. And while Jalen Green can score and do all that, Jalen Green's a great player. I think at the end of the day, for passing, for assists, stuff like that, I think Cade Cunningham is going to be the guy to be the floor general for the Pistons for a long time.
Yeah, if I knee-jerk decision right now, I would say, hey, they should have taken Evan Mobley, moved back, and got some other picks because he's playing great for the Cavs. I mean, he just looks awesome, and he's off to a great start. Scotty Barnes, who I was thinking the Pistons were going to end up with the booby prize, if them falling down to 5 or 6 or something. He's actually looked pretty good there for the Raptors as well. And Franz Wagner from Michigan is doing well for the Magic. But, yeah, I would stay with Cade too. I liked him at Oklahoma State. He's been the number 1 player all along here. I do have to say, just a couple nights ago, I saw one simple highlight from Jalen Green. He was just going down on the break, and he threw it down. It was like he jumped 20 feet in the air and was spiking a volleyball. It was beautiful athleticism, but also a ferocious dunk. And I was just like, whoa, it was pretty much just a fast break dunk that you would see, in a million times in an NBA game. But Green, it was an attention grabber. So, but I would stay with Cade too. I'm looking forward to this. You don't see Pistons take on the Rockets too many times. So I'm expecting, I hope they both play, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Pistons, one of the worst teams in the East, Houston, one of the worst teams in the West, but these are the top 2 picks in the draft. Two young guys that are the future of the NBA. And it'll be fun. It's going to be fun to see them go at it heads up. And hopefully Cade has a coming out party. Hopefully he go for a career high 25, 30 points and make it exciting.
There
that
you
would be
go.
Incredible. Is that game tomorrow nationally televised or not?
I don't know the answer to that, but since we're local, I don't care either because I know it's going to be on. Hopefully it'll be on. All right, Raj, we'll talk with you next week. Great job.
All right. Peace out. Appreciate you guys for having me on board.
I'm going to get gloves next week. Peace out, Raj.
And we will see you next week. Why don't you bring, maybe put your golf glove on? You look like you've, even though you said you're done for the year, you look like you're ready to go out there. Rob, I don't know. Did you get your mic fixed? We didn't see Rob was throwing up all the videos and, some of the sweet stuff to look at, but his mic wasn't necessarily working. Let's see. No, it's not working. It's good to see you, though, there, Rob. Give everybody a wave. There he is. Thanks to Rob Diddy for putting it all together. And Jelinek, we'll talk with you next week as well, since you'll be here on Tuesdays, right?
Tuesdays with Jelinek, man. Can't wait.
Tuesdays with Jelinek. That's got a nice little ring to it. All right, Ryan Jelinek. I'm Dennis Fithian. Say so long to everybody.
So long, everybody. See you again on Tuesday.